Hi, this is Jeff Mitchell with the Golf Standard. You know, when you start talking about the basic fundamentals of the game, one of the things you want to make sure you don't overlook is ball position. Whether you put the ball in the middle of your stance or the very front of your stance, it's going to have an impact over how solid you can hit the golf ball, and it's also going to have an impact on how much you're able to take advantage of the loft of a club. So what I want to do today is just show you a general rule of thumb on getting the golf ball put in the proper position in your stance. So I've got 3 clubs out, a pitching wedge, a 6-iron, and a driver, and 3 golf balls here to represent where I want to put the golf ball in my stance. So what I do is I come up with my feet completely together. And for a pitching wedge, I want to put the ball pretty much in the center of my stance. I'm going to use my nose as that example. So I'm going to take my pitching wedge, put it even with my nose, and I'm going to make sure that as I bring this down, that puts a pitching wedge exactly in the middle of my stance. And then I can move my feet, just making sure that I keep that relationship with my nose. As I go to longer and longer clubs, I have less and less loft. This 6-iron is about in the middle of my iron. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come up feet together. I want the ball a little farther forward in my stance. So I'm going to use the left edge of my left cheekbone as to represent where I want to put that 6-iron. So if I come up feet completely together, put this over the left edge of my cheekbone right there, that represents where I want that 6-iron in my stance. And then I can take my stance, making sure that relationship stays the same. As I go to a driver, what I'm really trying to accomplish with a driver is I want to hit a driver right at the bottom of my swing, or maybe even a degree or so on the upswing. So for that, I'm going to set up feet together again, and I'm going to put this club right even with my left armpit. That's going to represent pretty much the bottom of my swing, right where that club is going nice and level at the bottom of that swing. So I'm going to set up right here, and then I'm going to move until I've created that relationship. Make sure that I take my stance, keeping that relationship right there. Now what I've done by putting the golf ball in the proper position is I have created a situation where with the short irons it's a little bit easier to hit it solid with it in the back of the stance. As I go to the longer clubs, I want to have a little less angle of attack so that I can take advantage of the loft of the club. I actually want all of the golf balls to apex at a very similar height. So if we use 90 feet or 100 feet as an average, I'd want my pitching wedge and my driver to apex pretty close to the same. And to do that, I'm going to end up having to move the ball a little bit more forward in my stance for some of the longer irons as I go through the bag. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to hit the golf ball solid, but I'm going to be able to get the height I need on that so I can control the golf ball not only in the air, but I can control what it does when it comes down, and it's going to come down at approximately the same descent angle. So if you're really looking for one thing that's going to make you a better golfer, it's putting the golf ball in the proper position in your stance. Have some fun with this. Test it out. Until next time.